Halloween is amongst my favorite holidays. In part because if you wear suits, you got a lot of costumes. Special thanks to the letter hack for affecting my algorithm in such a way that I saw Super Crooks. I'm a big fan of this guy, right, John? Johnny Bolt. Johnny Bolt. I'm going to transition that. Let's do a side-by-side, which will... Woof. I just realized I don't have my green screen. There we go. Side by side. I'm also going to help a boxer lab down some stairs. One moment. Thank you for your patience. She, now that she knows that I'm going to carry her down the stairs portion, she leaps forward in the Supergirl pose and gets a kick out of it. Happy Halloween. How are you all doing? Oh, right. I goofed. I goofed up that Johnny Bolt thing. How are y'all doing? I hope you are dressed up. If not, no big deal. Really, it's just an excuse. Amanda Patton, hello. Pinkerbell, Groovy Shades. The letter hack, you are indeed first. I have a feeling. Christy Z, happy Halloween to you too. I have a feeling that when Alora Nadi's premiere wraps up, we will be joined by quite a few fellows. You know what? Let's do a poll. I want to... The Indigenous Heretic. Sup, comrades? Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween to you, too. All right. Is the Johnny... Oh, wait. Rate the Johnny Bolt costume. As I assemble this, let me just tell you about Wicked Fight Night and tonight's festivities. I am convinced that the next section I do isn't gonna take much time at all. And I have been convinced of that for every single section. Looney Tunes 9000, Ole raid incoming. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've been convinced that every section I'm going to do is going to be quick, and the last one was a fluke that it took so long. And I have been wrong every time. I'm only halfway through the cartoon, and my backup plan was just to have the podcasters appear to bump into the camera, digital though it is, and knock it out and have just the audio as the last 10 minutes or something, and make a bunch of jokes like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we've captured that on film. Literally the most amazing thing I have ever witnessed, But it was too cheap. I could have gotten away with maybe 60 seconds of that, but it was like a full 10 minutes. So it'll be done when it's done. I'm not going to cut into working on the showtime anymore for it, usually. But I look forward to premiering that with you guys. For those who are just joining, the costume is Johnny Bolt. Johnny Bolt from Super Crooks. And we are going to talk a little bit about Halloween today, as well as just go over some stuff folks sent in. It's not going to be nearly as much of a organized stream. I think maybe it is. We'll see. The anti-corporatist throwing on the towel. Yeah, I was just trying to do a play on words for like a ghost costume and also giving up. I'm giving up on trying to get Fight Night done for a Halloween premiere. There's too many, there's too much that I assumed would go quickly that's taking 100 times as long. The Mike's Dead Show, hello! Happy Sam Hain, yes indeed. Polonius Monk, well done. Hot witches are now called paninas. Pass it on. Okay. But yes, I'm throwing in the towel on trying to get Fight Night done tonight. It will be done. I promise. I won't stop working on it if anyone was looking forward to it. But it's too much fun not to get right. Plus, the fellas put a lot of. It takes a lot of trust to be as goofy as I ask them to be on camera, and I want to reward that trust by making a good product. And I don't want to bother them until we've got a great product. So to that end, we've got a couple pieces of Halloween content, as well as some viewer suggestions, and this is the first of 2 streams today. It's a 2 for Tuesday spooky Halloween version, which means the haunted dogs, the moans of the specters around me, which will be played, of course, by my haunted house assistants, which are very much living dogs. Oh, you can hear the wail of the banshee and the hounds of the moor. I'm setting up the segment, I promise. Mercy me. All right, let's. I'm going to leave the poll up for a little bit because I'm trying to do a Feldman. But unlike David Feldman, I do not think about the accoutrements beforehand. I wanted to talk about it yesterday, and I saw a frickin' Majority Report already talked about it. I'm itching to talk about the most ghoulish thing that has occurred this month. Not really, but at least that has occurred. Not even in America this month. Things aren't great. Anyway, Ron DeSantis. Well, this is the most, let's say, ghoulish moment Ron DeSantis has had, and that's saying a lot. But he is literally incapable of hearing that guns kill folks. He's incapable of hearing that. That is among the highlights in this absolutely brutal Meet the Press interview, which I would like to watch with you.
This Sunday, Next Stage.
Yada da 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 da.
My
business.
Oh,
DeSantis, California governor, news senior for the White Hayes.
DeSantis is out. All right.
On television.
I mean, Pence
Good
is out.
Sunday morning. Mass shooting and 6-year-old of a new speaker. The end of former Vice President.
Oof. Here we go. So ever so quickly, I guess it's worth noting that Mike Pence threw in the towel. I'll tell you, I was convinced that he had something up his sleeve for dealing with Donald Trump. Maybe he was just hoping, much like I am, that America would just come to its senses when it saw the evidence. I'm not planning around that happening. I just hope that happens. And maybe he just simply was planning around that happening. But regardless, if he had a card to play, he ran out of time to play it because time in America is bought with money, and his campaign ran out of money. That's, I think, all the Pence analysis necessary. He had his thumb thoroughly, or his finger thoroughly off the pulse of society.
And Syria. Here's Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Our fight inside the Gaza Strip.
DeSantis, with me now is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
It can't just go unmentioned, so I'll mention it. We will talk about Israel, especially if you guys want to. I have a segment I'm going to do on that next. I think you might want to hear it because it doesn't sap energy, I hope. It's productive. I don't like to come to you guys unless I actually have something that I think you can do about a situation. Unless, of course, it is to gloat. Anyway, let's enjoy this. Let's build our energy, first and foremost. And look at this grimacing fool try to answer very simple questions, very easy questions.
This a Republican candidate for president. Governor DeSantis, welcome to Meet the Press.
Sorry, I'm providing the voice of Ron DeSantis's facial expressions.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I want to dive right in and start with Israel, what Israel is calling this next phase of the war. If you were president right now, Governor, would you urge Israel to slow its current offensive to allow for the release of more hostages and for more humanitarian aid to get into Gaza?
I just got to say, I watched this already. I've already seen this, so it's not like I'm going to predict what he's saying. Or rather, it's not. I can't get credit for predicting what he said because I'm not doing it in front of you. But I did, and here's how I knew exactly how he would answer every question. I thought, what answer? And I mean this sincerely. I thought he will say something to the tune of whatever answer will ensure the most death, the most heartache, the most evil to be done in the world. He will be in support of genocide if possible. Anything he thinks he can get away with. If he can help Russia invade Ukraine, lie about that invasion, lie about who the Palestinian people are, who the Israeli people are, who Benjamin Netanyahu is, and who Hamas is. He will do all of that if given the opportunity. And in this answer, when asked, how would you make the conflict less violent, he can't even express a hope that, or let me put it like this, he can't even express a plan for peace that's so generic that it means nothing, which would be the old-fashioned way a Republican would answer that question, which would would be to pretend like they don't just want death, but not be held to account for anything in particular. He can't even do that.
I would support Israel's right to end this problem once and for all. Obviously, we have an interest in the hostages being rescued. I would work with them. I would look at the intelligence to see what our options are there. And of course, we have a strong interest there. But Israel is facing an enemy that wants nothing less than another Holocaust. They would eliminate Israel from the map if they could. Hamas would drive every Jew into the sea. So I think it's important for the United States, or one of our strongest allies, that we stand with them publicly and privately, in word and in deed, because I think if they do anything else than eliminate Hamas entirely, they're just going to face these types of attacks again in the future.
Governor, if you were president, though, what would your message be to Israel in terms of defending itself, but also trying to mitigate civilian deaths, which are already estimated to be in the thousands?
You need to understand something. The very reason that they are, come here, Ben. Come on. The reason they blur the lines about Palestinians and Hamas, for example, is so that they can say things like that. From his evil perspective, he did answer the question. He said they have to be able to eliminate Hamas entirely. And she asked the question again as though he had ignored the civilians, but he didn't. The quiet part of what he said is that everyone who's brown is Hamas, in his eyes. May as well be. And he wants them eliminated entirely. Let's see if he pulls out of that. He's been given the opportunity he shouldn't have. He should have had to say specifically that that's not what he was implying. The interviewer should have caught that. But, trust me, it's harder than it looks. And I can't, at least on a local level, I can't imagine on a national level. So I'm saying she should have done that, and she should. It doesn't mean it's a BAD interview. We're watching certain words around because we're in mixed company. Not mixed breed, laddie. You're a pure terrier, a Jack Russell. Anyway, here's DeSantis trying to. He's already, when he said that evil answer earlier, that satisfied his most vicious base, and now they know everything he says in this next answer that he has to do to make up for what he just did. They know that's not real, because that's how these people work. That's how they have Nazis support them. They first say an answer that would please a Nazi, and then in their follow-up question, if they get asked one, they pretend like they didn't just say what they said.
Well, on the humanitarian aid, I've not been supportive of sending that to the Gaza Strip simply because Hamas will commandeer that money. And if you look at what Israel's facing now with dealing with Hamas, there's been a lot of money that's gone to the Gaza Strip for humanitarian purposes since Hamas took power. Did they use that money to make life better for the people in the Gaza Strip? No, they used it to build a massive terrorist infrastructure. They have elaborate tunnels. They have all these things put in place that they've used to launch rocket attacks for many, many years, and of course, launch the barbaric attack.
Number one, Trump should be in prison for the rest of his life just for bringing the phrase "all these things" into politics. If you want to pretend like something's a huge problem when it's a non-existent problem, you make one accusation that will get disproven immediately and pair it with the phrase "and all these things." The Jews have these space lasers to start forest fire and all these things, and that's really why we have to deal with them. If you're talking to your Nazi friends like Gabriel Hansen. It doesn't matter then if the space laser thing gets disproven, people that want to believe that an ethnicity are the problem will say, yeah, but one of those other things must be true. And any one of them is justification for the evil thing we want to have a justification for. Thing number 2, I just want to point out that if the aid went directly from the hands of the United States military, a general in the military, into a Palestinian civilian's hands, DeSantis would still say Hamas was intercepting it. Because, again, in his estimation, anyone brown is Hamas. Doesn't even matter what country they're in. Anyone who's brown is Hamas. Or they're ISIS. Or they're whatever. Whatever group we've decided is okay to kill en masse. By the way, I actually think it's fine. If every single member of Hamas gets killed, fine. Good, for that matter. I hope the Netanyahu government and Hamas have a big knife fight out in like an empty stadium somewhere. And neither country has to deal with either of those parties again. But just understand that's what Ron DeSantis means. Last thing, just realized, what is it with Republicans and being terrified of brown people coming up from the ground? Again with the tunnels? Again with the tunnels. It's a weirdly specific trope that I keep seeing. I think the Underground Railroad maybe scarred them for, like, generationally. Like, it's in their DNA to be terrified of their slaves escaping. I'm not sure why they're afraid of that concept.
On October 7th, so Hamas is the problem here. And I think Israel's taken great pains to warn people to get out if you're a civilian casualty. Hamas takes great pains to try to get them to stay so that they can use them as human shields.
Understood your point that Hamas is hoarding some of that aid material, but aid organizations say...
Get out if you're a civilian casualty, was the phrase he said. Really, just sort of, I don't even know if it's accidental, but really, or rather I should say, I don't know whether or not it was accidental, but just saying who he is, huh? Oh, I'm supposed to be doing the voice for his facial expressions. I'm a sad potato. Yeah, that's that one. Okay. Here she is again, trying to give him a chance to be a human being.
Some of the aid that has been recently sent in has made its way to civilians. My question to you, though, is how much of a priority would it be if you were president to try to limit civilian deaths, Governor?
Well, anytime you're involved in military conflict, you want to be able to achieve decisively the military objective with minimizing damage to civilians and civilian infrastructure as much as possible. So that goes without saying. But I think it's a double standard.
So instead of saying it, he says it goes without saying, and he even qualified it to say that would just be incidental, really, to the infrastructure. We want to keep the infrastructure. Money is obviously important. That goes without saying. And you know, if you're sparing buildings, you're going to incidentally be sparing some of the Browns. But, I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can get rid of them. Once we've really driven them out of their homes and broken families and traumatized them for life, once we've gotten them mad enough to fire back at us, then we can classify them as terrorists and shoot them that way. Facial expression sound is bleh. Bleh. I don't know. Meh. Yeah, it's always got to be whinier with DeSantis. It's whiny and potatoey. Meh. DeSantis his face is so annoying it makes sounds. Don't worry, we have a massive face coming up.
standard here when Hamas can go in and massacre babies, massacre elderly people, rape and mutilate. And it's almost like, actually, you have people in the United States that are siding with Hamas in the streets and cheering that. You don't hear much there. But then all of a sudden now it's Israel is under the microscope for everything they do. Hamas can end this.
Curious to know how, I mean, great. Let's find out. He might genuinely say something true here. I think Hamas could end this, turn themselves in to Israeli authorities.
By releasing the hostages. And
obviously, yes, that as well. Jesus. Release the hostages and
unconditionally surrendering. So
yeah, see, we agree. I agree. Hamas literally could end this right now. If they gave a damn about the people, they could end this. Understand their own people are part of the plan. They are planning to martyr their own people. They know how ugly this is going to get. That was the reason. They knew how mad Israel was going to get. That was the reason. By the way, that is also why I stress when we talk about what should be done instead, we should point out that the goal is still to let's go as petty and base as we need to, still to get revenge. What Hamas did must be answered. However, it's not being answered by what Netanyahu is doing, not being answered by what we are supporting, and it is, in fact, part of Hamas's plan. Hamas right now is recruiting. They will, with what Netanyahu is doing, he's helping them change from a impotent political force to a nomadic military force with its ranks swelling. He's recruiting. Right now, Netanyahu is giving them soldiers. And DeSantis, the moron, would help. And he would drag the U.S. into it. And he would make sure it spilled over into the rest of the Middle East. He would start, he would generate an Iraq, what do you call those 20 years of sorrow? Middle East Wars 2. He would gladly do that. And is trying to do it right now in this interview.
So they are choosing to put
faces
people through this. There's no way that they can do what they did and not expect to have a very, very severe response.
Well, let me ask you about some of the statements that you have made recently about those protesters. This week, you called for the banning of pro-Palestinian groups from Florida state colleges. Your Republican challenger, Vivek Ramaswamy, says that violates the First Amendment rights of these students. He writes, quote,
correct.
It's a shameful political ploy. It's unconstitutional. It's utter hypocrisy for someone who railed against left-wing cancel culture. What is your response to Mr. Ramaswamy?
This is not cancel culture. This group, they themselves said in the aftermath of the Hamas attack that they don't just stand in solidarity, that they are part of this Hamas movement. And so, yeah, you have a right to go out and demonstrate, but you can't provide material support to terrorism. They've linked themselves to Hamas, and so we absolutely decertified them. They should not get 1 red cent of taxpayer dollars. And we also have strong laws in Florida against fundraising for groups like Hamas, and we are enforcing those vigorously. It's not a First Amendment issue. That's a material support to terrorism issue.
Yeah, just to be clear, you're citing the Florida law that says one cannot give material aid or resources to a terrorist organization. Do you have any support that they're actually doing that?
There are
material support. Did they send Hamas money, weapons, people? That's the question.
their own words are saying they're part of this organization, that they don't just stand in solidarity, that they don't just support what they did, but that this is their movement too. So once you hit your...
I suspect he's lying. Let me look into that.
Wagon to a group like Hamas, that takes you out of the realm of normal activity, and that's something that we're going to take action against. So we believe we're totally justified within the law. And I think things like this have been litigated time and again. But here's the broader point. Are we just going to commit suicide as a country and let groups metastasize who are openly siding with brutal terrorist organizations? I don't think that's a recipe for a successful country. I want to have a country where we're protected from that stuff. Yeah. So I think we made the right decision. I stand by it 100%.
You take me to my next question. The only Republican Jewish state representative in Florida, Randy Fine, recently broke from you in an op-ed in the Washington Times. He says you haven't been nearly as vocal in opposing neo-Nazi harassment and attacks in your state as you have in opposing what you believe support for Hamas, which you just laid out. What's your response to that, what he's accusing you of, this hypocrisy, effectively?
The DeSantis face is that's the DeSantis. That's the sound his face is making. That's the energy it has. Hey, gang, let's find out exactly what they're talking about. Now, this I did wait to do live. I didn't look into this. I was just so confident, so very confident, that Ron DeSantis is a liar. That even though he boldly said they're part of Hamas, that's his justification for banning their speech, is saying that they are part of Hamas, just rejecting them. Here is the truth. Let's find out. Maybe they are. Maybe. But DeSantis seeks to deactivate pro-Palestinian student groups in Florida. Will I lend us a hand? No, The Guardian. No, I won't. A pro-Palestinian student group, said Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor and Republican presidential candidate, was seeking to undermine free speech rights by moving... a pro-Palestinian group said Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor and Republican presidential candidate, was seeking to undermine free speech rights by moving to deactivate its chapters in the state university system over its response to Hamas attacks on Israel and Israel's strike on Gaza in response. Governor DeSantis continues to disrespect American values such as freedom of speech to extend his political power. The University of Florida chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP, told the Tampa Bay Times. To bend the law in this manner shows the utmost disrespect not only to pro-Palestinian organizations, but also to any pro-Palestinian organization, but also to anyone who truly cares for political freedom and freedom of speech. The statement came in response to publication of a letter in which Ray Rodriguez, chancellor of the State University System of Florida, said 2 SJP chapters must be deactivated. Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, killing more than 1,400, including more than 30 U.S. citizens, and taking more than 200 hostages, which we still need to get back. Israeli strikes have reportedly killed more than 6,000. Amid worsening conditions in Gaza, a ground invasion is expected, and it has arrived. Hamas is responsible for this attack, and military leaders of Hamas have called for the mobilization of Palestinians in support, Rodriguez said in his letter. All right, let me read this part. This is the operative moment. In response, leading up to a day of resistance, the National Students for Justice in Palestine released a toolkit which refers to the Hamas attacks as the resistance. So we are hearing DeSantis's guy explaining this. I'm not sure I trust that. It unequivocally states the Palestinian students in exile are part of this movement, not in solidarity with this movement. I don't know that it does state that. This is Rodriguez saying that. The chapters could reorganize. Let's see if this is good reporting. If it's good reporting, it will have what the Palestinian pro-Palestinian student group says about the accusations. Important for people to know that when it comes to hot button issues, oh my God. Hold on. I'm going to play some more of that DeSantis interview. I'm going to look up what the pro-Palestinian student group actually said.
Well, he's just trying to get his 15 minutes of fame. I mean, this guy was singing my praises a couple of months ago. He's got his different reasons why he's doing that. We have acted very, very swiftly and decisively. I mean, for example, after this attack, we dispatched state law enforcement working in conjunction with locals to protect our Jewish institutions, our Jewish day schools, our synagogues. There have been arrests that have been made with people that were threatening to do harm to our Jewish community. And we have some of the strongest laws on the books, from anti-BDS to financial support for security of anywhere in the country. We're also one of the states that's had probably the most in-migration of Jewish residents, and we have the second highest Israeli-American population in the entire country. So people vote with their feet. They see the type of environment we've created here that's been very strong and positive. And name me, Kristen, another governor who scrambled planes to Israel to bring them back, bring Americans back from the war zone. We did that. We got that job done. Almost 700 people we've rescued, and we're proud of stepping up and leading on that.
Governor, let me ask you, though, because as you know, words also matter. You are the governor. You are a presidential candidate. Your state has heard from both Marco Rubio and Rick Scott condemning those neo-Nazi protests. Why didn't you speak out? Why didn't you use your voice to say that you're not going to stand for that?
Of course we condemn that. I mean, you just look at everything that we've done in terms of our policies.
But you didn't at the time, Governor.
I don't think you
at the
could have.
time, according to Randy Fine. According to Randy Fine, you did not at the time.
Well, right, and he's just trying to create a name for himself. So that's all nonsense. Everybody knows that's nonsense. And don't give somebody a 15 minutes of fame just because they're letting you try to do a preferred narrative just to hit me. It's nonsense. Our record is second to none, and we'll continue to lead.
Found another article which acknowledged that they tried to reach out to the Students for Justice in Palestine, who did not respond. Sorry, I'm not gonna defend them if they won't defend themselves. You gotta respond. That simple. I don't trust what DeSantis or his cronies said, but I now can't point out the difference because it took me 3 times as long searching for their response as it did to read the entirety of the rest of the information. So make it easy next time, y'all. Not entirely their fault. It should have been clear in every article. But if we did see that they were reached out to and they did not respond, that's got to be on them.
On these issues.
Let's turn to another key domestic issue, the horrific mass shooting in Maine. And I want to get your reaction to what the newly elected Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson had to say about it this week. He said, quote, "At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns." Do you agree with him?
Well, first of all, I think this was a very tragic thing. And, my heart goes out to all the victims in this. Truly horrific. I think in this case, there was a medical intervention, a health intervention. He clearly had problems. He was involuntarily committed. He would not have been somebody that would have been a prohibited possessor, or he would have been a prohibited possessor based on that adjudication. So this is, I think, an example where clearly this is a guy very well trained, had a lot of skills, and then went off his rocker. There was an intervention, but it wasn't enough. So I'd like to know, why wasn't there more done? We've seen instances throughout the country where there have been a lot of signs where people have maybe been referred, but then they don't go through with everything. And I think that's going to be probably what we end up finding out here. I'm somebody that said publicly, we've had a major push over the last 40, 50 years for deinstitutionalization of people. And I'm not saying you got to go all the way back, but I do think that we tend to pass the buck with some of these people and just kind of hope that they don't do anything wrong when there's a lot of signs. So I would be more aggressive on some of those fringe people who clearly are demonstrating signs that they're a major danger to society.
Let me ask you about your call to institutionalize people, though, because we are learning new details about what did and did not happen. This is overnight. Law enforcement chiefs say they received a statewide alert in mid-September to be on the lookout for Card after he made threats against his base, against his fellow soldiers. They searched for him.
Now, I deeply enjoy the amount of sweating DeSantis does here, but I am getting bored with him overall. So I'm going to skip forward. The face he's making is... I'm going to skip forward. I want to see the most brutal answer. This is like Nathan Explosion brutal. Let me see if I can just identify it from his grimace. There's a lot of head bobbling going on here. All right. I think this is it.
Right now, Governor. And as you know, you are trailing double digits behind former President Trump. He is facing 91 felony counts. Do you
wait? Background
That's
check
funny.
system. So that should have been enough if that information was put into it. So that's what I would do. I would focus on those individuals who've actually gone.
So yeah, he's saying no changes, please.
On and either been involuntary committed, been adjudicated to be mentally ill. That's really the approach that matters. And I think you can look, in Florida, our crime rate's at a 50-year low, and our violent crime rate's down 30% since I've been governor. So we're handling it strong.
Governor, actually, statistically speaking, the CDC says that the firearm mortality rate is actually higher under your administration than it was under your predecessor's administration. But I do want to move on to the campaign. And just
the what mortality rate? No.
Oh, no, yeah. So she corrects him with some truth. And if he had any political savviness at all, he could have just made a little face and let her ask the next question, which she was ill-advisedly going to do. But he insists on stepping on this rake. He insists on accidentally dwelling on reality. Firearm mortality rate has gone up. The firearm mortality rate, people getting killed by guns, has gone up, she says, under his administration. And he says, what?
Firearm mortality rate was actually higher under your administration than your predecessors. That's according to the CDC. Let me move on to the campaign, Governor.
Well, right, because you had COVID and all that stuff. Excess mortality, is that what you're saying? That went up everywhere.
He literally can't even hear. He can't even hear the question. It won't register in his brain. And the reason he doesn't get he was just so thrown by that is because it's very difficult for a Republican to understand that the CDC measures cause of death for all kinds of things. Diseases, yes, also guns. Republicans, in fact, worked very hard, very, very hard, to make it difficult for the CDC to get any information about these things. They make it difficult to get information about how dangerous guns are. It doesn't click to him that the CDC might be involved, branching off of the last thing they talked about. And so he glitches and says, "Oh no, I've got a defense for this. I've got a defense for how badly I handled COVID."
In the country from 2020 on, our excess mortality went up less
Governor, the firearm
than anybody.
The firearm mortality rate. Let me move.
The firearm mortality rate. You plank. I'm going to say it again because you're still flapping your gums. The firearm mortality rate. You absolute pylon.
Go to the campaign because I want to let you respond to the state of the race.
He just now caught up. He just now was going, "Oh, I was given an out. They know this will. I can't answer this." So she's just doing her little truth thing real quick, but she's letting me get away. Watch that head bobble again. I'll make an immature noise during it.
2020 on,
No,
our
the
excess mortality went up
rate,
less
Governor, the firearm
than anybody.
The firearm mortality rate. Let me move on, though, to the campaign, because I want to let you respond to the state of the race right now, Governor. And as you know, you are trailing double digits behind former President Trump. He is facing 91 felony counts. Do you believe that the former president's legal troubles are the reason that you're still in this race?
No, I mean, I think that had Alvin Bragg not politicized this back in...
Hey, even though he is in court on 91 charges, this guy's still beating the Jim Caviezel out of you. Is the only reason you're still involved at all because one of your opponents has 91 criminal charges? Is that what it takes to make you a feasible candidate who still is unable to win? Jeez, oh Pete.
April, I think probably the primary be looking different. I mean, I think that gave the former president more support. I think people felt that he was being treated unfairly, which he was in that circumstance. I mean, that I think has been a very important inflection point in this because it highlights the weaponization of justice by some of the...
And he still has no spine. My word. Oh, that was brutal. And I loved every minute of it. Yeah, Ron DeSantis. Very doubtful that that guy will be president. I mean, we are in a waking hell, who's to say? But it just doesn't seem likely on account of he is an absolute void of charisma. He's a charisma vacuum. All right, let's I'm going to pull this up. We have a poll here. I'm going to close it down. How good of a costume did I pull off? Johnny Bolt from Super Crooks ending the poll now. Oh, look at that. And we have 85% giving me an A. B came in at 7%, D 7%, and C at 0. I'll take it. Much appreciated. Let's say hi to folks. We had a bunch of people show up. PNC Bio, hello. Looney Tunes, good. He's losing badly. Ron DeSleep is next to go to jail. I would be surprised if that were not the case. Public utility, because ACLU sued California for abusing patients and the law on mental health. Governor Reagan closed most mental health facilities. Yeah, heartbreaking. Pinkerbell, what a dumbass. You don't want that phrase repeated that many times in your national TV interview. Yes, it was amazing. It really was. Scrolling up a little bit here, Jenny Jupiter. People with bad hearts maybe shouldn't have war weapons. Yeah, I agree. Jenny Jupiter also saying, red flag, you idiot. Mars Falcon. I hear you, anti-corporatists. I am one of the fortunate ones that never took Gabbard seriously, knew her torture quotes and cult history long before she officially turned, so I forgot her already. Yeah, wise. Gabbard was... I had no idea of the cult stuff until, like, this year, basically. What a wild person to be in U.S. politics. Polonius Monk. Notice Ron doesn't mention the recent mass shooting in his own state because it wasn't brought up. What a clown. Yeah. If he can get away with not addressing a problem, he will. He has no interest in addressing problems. PNC Bio. Well, up until October 7, I was pretty okay with Nazis. After that, it became pretty politically toxic. Yeah. Public utility. Oh wait, that's quite a long quote, and I can't find the other part. Scott Ward, I like Jake and pray for his success. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The Mike's Dead Show. Why doesn't DeSantis go to Israel if he likes it so much? Yeah, I don't know. I hope he puts on a journalist hat and goes to Israel. Ooh, public utility. That's a 3-part in there. Domenico, hello! A plus, Jake. I just saw your emails, by the way. I'm sorry, I haven't opened them yet, but I just saw them. Oh, check your super chats. Look at that. Good call. Scott Ward! Whoa! With the very kind $5 twice. A double barrel $5. I'm going to give you hearts for that, man. Scott Ward with the first super chat. Thank you very much, by the way. Trump is the only American president who ever surrendered in a war. Oh my gosh, interesting. Trump surrendered to the Taliban in Afghanistan. Why is that not an issue? Good point. Trump surrendered to the Taliban. Trump is the only president who ever surrendered in a war. Why is it not an issue? I'm not sure if you meant to send that twice. Let me know. I'm sorry to put you through this process, but either let me know in the live chat or more reliably, write me at whatyoucanddo@wycdnetwork.com if you want $5 back. I don't want to take money that you didn't mean to give. But you're right. That should be brought up all the time. All the time. Not by Biden, though. Because we don't want people to turn around and say, what, would you rather we stayed? We shouldn't bring that up to swing lefties. Lefties should be happy that Trump surrendered. Fine, surrender. What do we care what it's called? End the killing. But amongst Republicans, that should be brought up. Just anything you do to bust his chops amongst Republicans, you should. And I think that's a great angle of attack. Domenico, you look like $1 million, Jake. Well, thank you so much. I'm trying. I'm leaving. Costume is not inherently obvious if I don't have this up. But what the hell? The guests are here. We shall put it down. Jenny Jupiter, he released like 5,000 Taliban on a deal. Yeah. Scott Ward, it didn't appear on my screen. Uh-oh. The Mike's Dead show, didn't Nixon surrender? Yeah, that's a good point, actually. But still, that's not exactly great company. Domenico, I pledge allegiance to the WYCD US. Oh, Scott Ward, I don't want anything back. I totally support your mission. Well, thank you so much. You are the best, man. I appreciate it. What was the second thing I had? Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. Okay. I had, I think, some grand lead-in to talking about this. Let me just start recording. I had some grand lead-in to talking about this. I forget what I was watching that prompted the thought, but it doesn't really. I just wanted, let's just talk Turkey. Actually, U.S. There will not be some grand politician who will become president and fix all of our problems. Even if we get a Democrat, even if we get somebody who says they are a progressive, I won't trust that somebody actually is a progressive until after their term in office. But somebody who says they're a progressive and appears to be a progressive, even if we get that in office, they won't suddenly change all the things we're dealing with. And a centrist president will have a hard time preventing change if we pack the House and we pack the Senate. The House is easier than the Senate. We should probably be focusing on two things right now. House races and county commissioner races. Let's back up a little bit. MAGA is basically, when the things they're right on, they're right very broadly. And the things they're wrong on, they're wrong in such a way that you can basically say the opposite is true. You can define what the correct course is by just doing the opposite of what MAGA's doing. MAGA has this big expectation of the storm, this moment where all the bad guys are caught, and all the work is done by somebody else. You know, the military is going to come in and point their guns and say, aha, and behind here is what we're going to say is all the conspiracy evidence, but we're not going to actually show it because, you know, we don't actually want to have to. We want to just say it's all in there. Anyway, there's our excuse. No more democracy. Hooray, we did it. Down with America. La, 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 la. Whatever thing that MAGA's into. I realize the uvulating is done by the Afghani ladies historically, but who knows with MAGA. The opposite is true. But their sniffers are in the right direction. We actually do need to get rid of every MAGA politician. They have to go. They are inherently damage to our democracy. Just them holding a public office is damage to our democracy. They will try to break our democracy. Every Republican, as a matter of fact, that is in office needs to go. If they are still able to have the R next to their name, they have got to be out of office. But that's not going to happen with a FBI raid. It's not like one day we're going to have some glorious moment where the next phase of the January 6th trials start and like Marjorie Taylor Greene is out there saying like, y'all should kill trans folks. I mean, wink, y'all should deal with trans folks. I mean, child predators, wink. And then like a canister goes bouncing down the steps of the house and poof, smoke everywhere. And people go rappelling down the walls and zip tie her wrists. No. The work of getting rid of these traitors, of restoring a full and healthy democracy to the United States, it's going to be probably the work of the majority of the rest of our lives. And we should get the bulk of it done as quickly as we possibly can in the next election. It'll be really easy to identify these traitors before they go back into lay low mode, until they start calling themselves Democrats, possibly. The Trump-appointed judges just got to wait. We literally just have to wait, but make sure that we are aware that they are there and watch what they do very closely to make sure they're not just willy-nilly tossing brown people in prison. But there is not going to be somebody else to do the work for us, and it's not going to, sorry about the banshees and the hounds, but there's not going to be some group. 1 second. We can't just release the hounds. As satisfying as that might be to fantasize about. And if we could, if we literally could just say, arrest them all, we shouldn't. We need, as a people, as a voting populace, we need to have our shit together enough that we can get rid of them. Just by voting, just by saying, this person is not acceptable. I won't have this person as my representative in Georgia. There's no smoke grenade being tossed. There's no zip ties. It's as boring as the Democratic candidate wins because they get however many thousand more votes, because you were on Facebook a lot sharing positive messages for their campaign and negative messages about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you memorized the facts of whatever scandal finally gets Marjorie Taylor Greene low enough in people's eyes that she gets replaced. And we're going to have to do that with literally hundreds of House seats. Hundreds. Let's try to get the bulk of the work done now. But understand, especially when you carry this to viewing the presidency and that campaign and yada, yada, yada. I don't know that it's a good way to expend resources to gamble again with the presidency. We have a Democrat. We have theoretically a signature sitting in the White House. He will, if you genuinely think, oh, we have a real shot with this person or that person, or running someone against Biden will definitely make him more left. Cool. Do it. But don't do it at the expense of considering that your political work done. I think more important, first and foremost, and even setting aside even if Biden gets reelected or not, it's more important to have the House and Senate secured. Part of that work, incidentally, will include making sure your county commissioner is not a traitor. If it's a Republican, they're a traitor. If it's all right. They are at minimum traitor sympathetic. They may not themselves be a traitor, but they probably are. We cannot have the party that doesn't believe in democracy being in charge of the elections. You should start focusing on your county commissioner race today. That should be one of the main things you care about. I would like us to start targeting specific counties and try to get fans from there. But at the end of this first Two for Tuesday segment on this very happy Halloween, I want to leave you with a piece of homework, if you don't mind. Just consider doing. Find out who your county commissioner is and see if somebody has announced that they're running against them yet. They probably haven't. This is actually, believe it or not, a bit early. It's the year before the election still. But nonetheless, see if somebody has already announced. Get familiar with who your county commissioner is. And don't feel bad if you don't know. I don't know, and I just had the idea for this segment. I'm going to be looking that up myself. I'll tell you who mine is in part 2 of this. I'll come back on. We're going to go a little bit later. I saw a friend of mine's having a premiere at 9 p.m. We're going to let him ride. I'm going to come on and do a show, I think like 11. Yeah, 11 o'clock. Let's hang out during the spooky hour. God, that seems late though, doesn't it? Let's say 10. I like 10 o'clock better. 10 o'clock Eastern. But do consider who your county commissioner is. Find out who your county commissioner is and start keeping tabs on those races. And as we need to work together, we will in order to make sure that we have people that, at a minimum, believe in democracy in these positions. Let's real quick see what the Wicked audience has to say. Pinkerbell, we have 3 county commissioners. Wait, no, 4. 4 running? Ay, ay, ay. Public utility, need decent people to run for office everywhere. Yes, we do. Public utility, dope. GOP is a criminal organization. Yes. Yes. I mean, it is literally a criminal organization. It is a group of criminals. Scott Ward, they claim to believe in the word of God, but don't see homosexuality as fulfillment of prophecy. If you reject the prophecy, you reject Christ. I don't know what prophecy that's referring to. Oh, public utility. No worries. We love four-legged mammals. Well, alrighty. Bad Lefty. Nah, bro. We heart dogs. Fair enough. John Doe. Good to see you. Thank you, Bad Lefty. And thank you, public utility. One more thing. Damn it, that was a long effing chat. It reduced to that emoji the anti-corporatist set with the frowny face. Oh no. Mars Falcon. Growing up, that was a way for many to cope with getting run out of Vietnam. Public utility. I think there was no technical declaration of war, so it was called a police action. Little difference in my opinion. Yeah. Y'all, I am going to split. But wait. Oh, but wait. We have one more fan funding. Do we? $5. Somehow I have... Oh, no. We did that. We're good. Scott Ward, thank you so much again. That was highly appreciated. I tell you what. And, yeah, we'll be back at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm not sure what that is in moon time. But... And we'll see you there. Happy Halloween, y'all. Oh, this is WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake.